Testing. Testing. Right, we should be live on YouTube now. And with any luck, we should also be live on the other service, Mixer.
I don't see YouTube yet or Mixer yet.
Like...
Wait, there goes
Oh,
Mixer.
for some reason, I can't hear you now. Oh, that's because I've muted my... there we go, I can hear you now. What did you say?
No, I was saying it wasn't live, but now I see it. They're both up.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Congratulations on a successful
testing 1, 2. I need to just get my head together here. Why? I'm just not prepared for anything. We'll be starting in just a minute. Sorry about this.
It's a Halloween hangover.
Yeah.
Exactly I overdosed on beer and pumpkin rolls.
I had too many vodka cokes that apparently aren't a thing in the States.
Right. Yeah, vodka Coke is still weird. I mean, I'm all a fan of it, but yeah, it just sounds weird.
Oh, let me retweet you. All right, I should be ready to go.
Did you see my Twitter war with Jason Howard there from the Insider Group and Brandon? They're both anti-pumpkin spice flavored foods.
I saw you replied. I saw you replied to someone with just the word "butts."
Oh, that was yeah. I'm sorry, folks. We haven't started the podcast. We're about to. I did reply to someone on Twitter with just the word "but" because they were asking about this new awesome router I have. They're like, "Are you supposed to put that in your room or your house?" And I'm like, "No, your butt."
Oh, I see. Okay. No, I thought you just thought it was a stupid question, and so you gave a stupid answer.
Oh, it was a stupid answer.
Yeah.
As I want to give on the Twitters. All right, let me bust out the voice recorder so I can. I should probably test this microphone.
You should, yeah.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Because
give it a whack.
Yeah. I think it worked. Let me double check here. I did, for those wondering why I would have to check my microphone every week. I just plugged in a new display monitor.
But Dan, those things are unrelated.
You would think so, and yet it seems to change everything. So I love how under microphone, it's not the actual microphone. Speakers, input, microphone, Logitech. Yes, thank you. No, that was the wrong mic. Let me test one more time. Testing 1, 2, 3. Tapping. I'm just going to assume that's working. All right, I am now recording.
I am now recording as well.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast, episode 154. One more time. Welcome to the episode. It's really bad today. Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast, episode 154 for November 1st, 2019. Hey everyone, Daniel Rubino here, joined with Zach Bowden for another exciting episode of the Windows Central Podcast. And this week, we are getting ready to head to Microsoft Ignite, which means my brain is kind of already left the building, and I'm still recovering from a sugar crash from Halloween last night. That said, this week we'll be talking about some more RTM scheduled news and changes thereof for Windows 10, as Zach will explain, and a little bit of clarification from last week's podcast. I actually have no idea what he's talking about, but we'll get involved with that. Also, we're talking about the Jedi. Oh, wait, this isn't the cool Jedi for the new Star Wars movie. This is something to do with the U.S. government and a big Microsoft contract, and I'll explain a little bit of that and maybe why it's a big deal, as well as some of the controversy around it. Let's talk about xCloud console streaming. So Project xCloud just got its second launch this week. We'll talk about console streaming, what that means. I actually haven't had a chance to try this yet, but I believe Zach has, so we'll talk about that. And we'll also talk a little bit about Fitbit news. So we were talking about this last week. Rumors were that Google was going to buy them, and sadly enough, they did. We'll also just talk a little bit of bigger discussion about the wearable market. And I suppose we could also give some hints about Ignite coming up and why that may or may not be interesting to you. Zach and I are both going to be there next week, and that's actually... Ignite started off as a not exciting conference a few years ago, at least for our audiences and my interest. But over the last 2 years, Ignite has sort of turned into what Build used to be. And so we are expecting sort of well, announcements around stuff you guys use, specifically services and apps, as well as the future for things like maybe Microsoft Edge, as the Edge team seems to be teasing a lot of stuff these days. But anyway, Zach, how are you doing on this fine post-Halloween day?
I'm definitely recovering from last night. So I did, in fact, go out and have and partake in a Halloween event of some kind. There was lots of alcohol, and today it's been rough.
Fair enough. I
Yeah.
don't go out for Halloween, but I do have little kids apparently coming by. There's one thing about that's weird about owning a home is you now have to give out candy to strangers. Luckily, my neighborhood is not the cool neighborhood, so very few kids actually come by, which means I get to keep out 80% of the candy.
Mm.
But still, I have to answer the door, and that's always a little bit strange. So anyway, now we're heading into the home stretch of the fall,
Yes.
and we're in full mode for hardware and news. Of course, there's no break to this stuff as we lead up to Christmas time,
Well,
where I get about 4 days off before I have to go to CES. So
I am so glad I'm not going to CES. I do not want to be in your shoes.
yeah, Vegas is good food. That's what I'll say about Vegas. But let's talk about the news this week. Let's talk about what is this Windows RTM schedules are changing. What's going on here, Zach?
So this is a sort of a follow up to a thing we talked about last week regarding some info we were hearing around Windows development about how 20H1 Edge was supposed to be part of 20H1 and how Windows 10 X would be RTMing with 20H1 and all that good stuff. Turns out a lot of that information was kind of wrong because I was missing a key, very important detail around how Windows is built now internally. So, if we travel back in time about 10 months, I believe, something like that, Microsoft started testing 20H1 in February of this year, which was way earlier than normal for a H1 release of Windows. Usually, before 20H1 was a thing, if Microsoft were testing the version of Windows coming in the spring, that would usually go into testing around September of the year before it goes out. So it going out in February was a bit of a shock. And at the time, I think it was Mary Jo Foley sort of wrote up an article saying, "Oh, but this is because Microsoft and the Windows and Azure teams are aligning, and they're trying to work on the same schedule internally." Now, at the time, I didn't realize, and I don't think many people realized, that what this meant is Microsoft is now building Windows at the same pace Azure builds whatever it is building internally, which means those projects, Windows projects, have to be done at the same time as well. So since 20H1 went into testing much earlier than usual, the reason it did that is because it was just following the Azure schedule. It wasn't in testing earlier. It was just, following the normal development cycle that Windows does, just now under Azure. And what that means is 20H1 is done. It's basically ready to go. It's got about a month or so left of development, and then Microsoft is expecting to sign off on a final build around mid-December. And that's much earlier than usual for a H1 release. Before, when it wasn't under Azure, Microsoft would aim to sort of get it RTM'd in March of 2020. But now it's under Azure, it's RTMing in December. So that's 3 months earlier than normal. But it's not. This doesn't mean they're giving it less development time. That's not what this means. It's simply they are operating under a different schedule, which is pushed back a few months. And that's why we have Windows 10 19H2. Windows 10 19H2 is, although technically a feature update, basically isn't one. It's more of a service pack that sits on top of 19H1, and as such isn't too huge of an update. So Microsoft could actually shift things and technically skipped a full feature update with 19H2, and that's how they were able to keep 20H1 going and RTMing in December without losing any development time on this release. Now, that also means Microsoft cannot RTM Windows 10X with 20H1 because Windows 10X still needs a lot more work done to it. It needs at least 3 more months of development, which would have made sense for 20H1 in March if it was RTMing then, but it's not. So that means Windows 10 20H2 will be the designated release of Windows 10X, and that will be RTMing in June instead of September. So that's 3 months earlier as well, but 19H2 development has already started internally, and insiders will be getting the first preview builds of that, I believe, within the next couple of weeks. So very, very soon for 20H2. And that will be the manganese release, as Microsoft calls it internally. Microsoft call it 20H2 externally, and that will end up being the fall release of Windows 10. Now, regarding actual releases, like general availability of these, I don't know if that's changed. As far as I'm aware, it hasn't. So although 20H1 will RTM in December, That doesn't mean it has to come out in January. I'm pretty sure it will still come out in the springtime, in March or April. All Microsoft is going to do here is they're going to RTM in December. It'll roll out to, I guess, the slow ring or whatever in December. The release preview ring will get it in January, and that will sort of hang around in the release preview ring until March. So they can sort of bake it internally and externally, the final build, keep revving it and adding patches to it just to make sure it's stable for release. And that's going to be another one of their sort of, by the way, guys, we're doing so much more these days to make sure Windows is, up to scratch and good at quality and all that stuff. So that plays well on their behalf when it comes to PR as well. But otherwise, that's basically all the changes around Windows 10 development and whatnot. So just a schedule shift, really, which doesn't mean much to people externally. This is just sort of insider baseball for insiders and fans who are interested in this sort of stuff. It also means I don't think Edge will be in 20H1 by default. I know Microsoft wants Edge to be done around December, January, like the stable version to be out. But since 20H1 is RTMing in December, I don't think that's enough time for them to integrate it into the OS. So again, 20H2 would be the designated release for that as well.
That's a little confusing because they do have to time that. So it also kind of makes some sense that for the initial stable release of Edge, or the commercial release of it, of Edgium, as we call it, or Credge.
Yeah.
I like Edgium. That it would be an option to download and kind of, I mean, I don't know. There's probably not a ton of reason why they would need to do that for bugs or something like that, but at least we'll get it out there as an option.
Yeah.
They may do something with, here's what's new, and maybe auto download it or somehow promote it for people. But yeah, the actual removal, and integration, that seems like it'd be a significant shift.
I genuinely don't think they're going to remove Old Edge. I think they're just going to hide it and just make it so it's not accessible anymore.
And it makes sense because Edge HTML is still a thing, part of the operating system, and what powers things like some of the PWA apps in the store are powered by that. Now, at some point, there was talk that they're going to fix that too, so that PWA apps from the store will be powered by Chromium's JavaScript engine and V8 and everything. But I have no idea. I mean, that's something we'll have to find out maybe at Ignite or something like that we can ask around, because that'll be the more significant. Because I do use a lot of the PWAs. I've tweeted about this quite a bit. I pinned a lot to my taskbar, like the Hulu one. And for me, I noticed the performance seems better with the Chromium PWAs. And so what that means, though, for the store, if they want to put them in the store, they would probably want to have the new ones. But Microsoft did say at Build, they're not forcing developers to use Edge HTML or use V8, that the systems are kind of be interchangeable. Devs can use whatever, but they also don't want to have a situation where dev has put something on the store that's powered by Edge HTML, either through WebView or PWA, and then Microsoft pulls out Edge from the operating system and it breaks that app, right? They're trying to avoid that situation. So I think you're right about Edge will probably remain in the system along with Internet Explorer.
Yeah.
Like there's gonna be like these like weird like buried apps that are sort of like it's sort of like having a house and you have a basement. You just like or an attic, you just put your old stuff there. It's like just in case you need it someday, it's still technically there. But again, I think this is where Windows 10 X then is still a little bit more of a clean break, where then they don't have to worry and do those kind of things. It'll be interesting to see how they juggle all that, because this is the problem that Microsoft faces with having these sort of legacy systems.
Yeah, regarding Windows 10 X, one of the reasons that this was so confusing to me originally is because, as I mentioned on last week's podcast, for the Surface Neo to ship in October, November next year, it needs to be running, it needs to be running a final build of Windows. And had Windows still be running on the old schedule, which would see 20H2 RTM in September, that's not enough time to get the final build out of the labs into testing to make sure it's good enough, and then onto devices for shipping in October. There's just not enough time to do that, which is why originally I assumed, I had heard 20H1 was the designated RTM build for Windows 10 X, because then that's enough time to get it on Surface Neo and other devices to ship. But since 20H2 now RTM's in June, that's more than enough time. That Microsoft can RTM in June, and they've still got a few months to sort of just chill out before they have to start preloading it onto devices. So the schedule change actually benefits a lot of things. It's not just just because Azure said so, because it was Azure's schedule. Azure works on a semester-based schedule, which is January to June, July to December. So typically a version of Windows will start development a couple of months before those semesters. So in the case of 20H2, I believe it started development back in October, maybe September, and but it will go into testing in November, and it will be done by June. So yeah, that's basically it regarding the schedules. Just, it's like I said, insider baseball doesn't really matter too much to most people, just to insiders who are interested in how these schedules work and when these updates can be expected to be done. So yes, expect to see an RTM build of Windows 10 20H1 in December. Whether the one thing I don't know is, will they change the version numbers? Because now it's RTMing in December. Does this make it 1912, or will it still be the version 2003? These are important questions.
It's probably what time it ships, right? I don't know. I guess.
It never was. For some reason, the version number's always been the month at RTMs, but
yeah,
who knows? They could change it at any point. There's no written rules.
That's true. Microsoft has no written rules. Sometimes we like to think that there's they have a master plan for this stuff, and sometimes they do. Oftentimes they
just wing it.
They don't know as much as we would hope they would know. Anyway, that's interesting. I'm still running almost everything on fast ring builds, and
are you on the fast ring stuff? I haven't put it on anything that I use daily.
I don't know
yet.
Actually. I don't even know what I'm on for my main desktop. Let me check here. It's been a while. Yeah, I'm on fast. I'm on fast my main desktop.
Yeah. How's it running?
So, no issues.
It should be. It's basically done.
Yeah, I mean, it's so seamless. I couldn't even tell you what's new. So.
Yeah, it's not a huge update. 20H1. The biggest change of 20H1 is the Cortana stuff, the new Cortana experience. Otherwise, sorry, say again.
You do not like?
No, so I don't mind. So I like the UI. The UI is really nice.
Cortana's in dark mode now.
Yeah, that's been a thing for ages. It been since the first time it showed up.
Really? I thought it was only in white.
No, it's always had dark mode.
No, for the new one?
Yes.
For the floating one?
Yes.
How can you do that on iOS and Android then?
Because it sucks on iOS and Android. It's not the same app across all the three platforms. Anyway, I just want to quickly briefly mention. Yeah, so I don't mind the new Cortana. I actually do like the app and the UI and stuff. I think it's very clean and it's fluid and whatnot. And it's a UWP. Gotta love that as well. What I don't like is how it shows up as like an app window. When you click on the button in the taskbar, it just opens an app that just sits above it on the taskbar. It's not attached to the taskbar in any way, and that makes it the only system button on the taskbar that doesn't attach to the taskbar. And from a UX perspective, that's just rubbish. Now, don't get me wrong. I 100% support the option of allowing you to move it around at any point or wherever you want it on the screen. However, by default, I do think it should be docked to the taskbar just because it makes more sense that way. If you want to move it, there should be a button that you just sort of press and then it undocks it and then you can drag it to wherever you want. But by default, it should be attached. And right now, it's not. It's just like the My People pinned people. If you still use the pinned people, you know that when you click on a person, it pops up just like a little window rather than an actual docked panel that flies out of the taskbar. And that's just a little pet peeve UX thing that would make more sense if it was docked, but it isn't. And it was docked originally. In the original builds, they did have it docked, and then for some reason they changed it. And that sucks, but oh well.
This is again where I'm just like, shrug. I don't really care, but I'll defer to people who care about these things, because there is one thing I've learned in this job. There's a set of people who are very fixated on, and it's important. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm not making fun of it. I'm just oblivious to this stuff. And I only mention that because we were talking about this earlier with Android and iOS, how, a lot of people make the comparison that iOS is so much more polished and smooth and Android more consistent. 100% true. I do not disagree with any of that. And it's a credit to Apple for doing it. That said, don't care.
Yeah, most people don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at least on Android 9, Android 10, like it's hit and miss. Each one has pros and cons I like about what each operating system does. I've yet to find anything in tech that is like perfect. Even in laptop reviews. By the way, I did shoot 2 videos yesterday, one for Surface Laptop. Oh yeah, we should mention that. Let's just segue quickly to that. Surface Laptop 3 13.5 inch I reviewed this week. Go check that out. We did shoot the video for it. We didn't have time to do it at the time, but we did it yesterday. I also shot a video review for the XPS 13 2-in-1, which I already had the written review done, but I want to kind of capture those on video because they're two of my kind of favorite laptops. Although I will say that the XPS 13 2-in-1, I think is probably overall the better laptop in terms of features, value, and just kind of cool stuff. Its display is just so good. Surface Laptop 3, 13.5-inch though. I like it better than a 15-inch. And this isn't even the AMD Intel thing. That's a separate issue because you can get the 15-inch in Intel, and DAC has that and solves some of the issues I have. I'm just not quite a fan of that 15-inch 3x2. It's a little too big. I don't know. For me, the 13.5-inch is the kind of Goldilocks Surface device. It's not too big. It's not too small. 13.5-inch display feels like a 14-inch 16:9. We're kind of getting that screen coverage, but it's not as big. And the Intel chips performed really well. Battery life is about equivalent to what I saw with Surface Laptop 2. I'm not like Surface Pro 7, where they actually shrunk the battery a little bit, so battery life may be a little bit worse for some users. But a big fan of it. Got the Alcantara with the Platinum, which is darker. But go check out the review, put up all the benchmarks. And it's the same conclusion I always reach with Surface Laptop, which is on paper, it's not the best value. It's not the fastest laptop. It doesn't have the best technology in it in terms of like I/O and ports or Thunderbolt 3. The display is definitely not the best display, or at least the most interesting on the market right now. And yet there's something about it that I just really enjoy about using it, which is just the ergonomics of it, the way it feels, the Alcantara, that I'm such a fan of it that it's just such a piece of art. But, like I said, it could be better, right? Because when I was doing the review of the XPS 13 right after, I was just like, that display on the XPS 13 is so nice. It goes over 500 nits. So it's over 100 nits brighter than the Surface laptops. Has HDR. Of course, it's a touchscreen. It's also anti-glare, so it doesn't look real. Like our videographer was saying, he's like it's on, but it doesn't look like it's on. It looks like a static photo, and that's because of the anti-glare effect, And so Dell's investing a lot in that technology that is not on the Surface, and that ticks me off. And of course, the Dell has Thunderbolt 3, which I've said, I'll take it or leave it. I'd rather. It's nice to have, and I'm never going to say no to it, but it's not a deal breaker for me. But I think for a lot of people, it kind of is. So it's nice to have it there. It's also slightly cheaper and all this kind of stuff. But Dell's resume times, I made a big deal about instant on Surface Laptop 3. Well, Dell's like the opposite of this. Every time you open that lid, you're going to be waiting about 10 seconds. And I know that sounds trivial, but if you're using a laptop multiple times a day, hopping in and out of meetings, every time you do that, it's kind of annoying. Versus compared to the Surface Laptop, you just open that display and it's just instant on, you're ready to go. Or you wait the next morning. It's 24 hours, 30 hours, they'll still do that. So, but yeah, there's still no perfect laptop for me. Even the new Spectre and Dragonfly from HP, very excited about those. Hopefully getting those in soon. But I can already tell you, they're 16:9 display aspect ratios. If I had to change one thing, I'd tell you it right now. I wish they were 16:10 or 3:2. So there's no perfect laptop, unfortunately, yet. But everybody's getting closer to it. So
no doubt. Obviously, the MacBook is the perfect laptop.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. How are you? And so you haven't really spoken much about your Intel version of the 15-inch.
Yeah. No, I'm actually really enjoying mine.
That was a pregnant. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I actually really do like the 15-inch Surface laptop. I think you're right about it being a slightly unwieldy. It is a little bit large. But
it is, right?
Yeah.
It's that aspect ratio makes it like a dinner plate. It's weird.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. It's great to have the screen real estate when you're using it. Like having the screen is really nice, but like having just the extra space compared to the 13.5 inch. Because I've been using.
You remember at Build?
Yeah.
I was floating around the LG Gram 17.
17, yeah.
And I was happy as could be using that thing.
Yeah, good. And that's half the reason I got the 15-inch, because I saw the 17-inch LG Gram and I was like, wow, actually, that's really cool. But I've been using a Surface Book 2 13.5 inch for the better part of 2 years now. So going to the 15-inch it's like a breath of fresh air, like just having so much more space to have windows open and stuff. It is really nice. But the problem is that is too big to open on an airline seat. You're not going to be able to, unless you're putting it on your lap, you're not going to be able to use that really. So now I've got to bring a smaller device. I'm going to have to bring my Surface Go on the plane to.
It's a big deal. I don't think
Yeah.
people, like if you fly, you just, you're perked up when Zach said that because it's totally true.
Yeah.
It's amazing how small those little trays are.
They're
Like,
tiny.
I mean, the ideal device for traveling on a plane, Surface Pro.
You
Surface
reckon?
Pro works. Yeah, Surface Pro works brilliantly on those trays. It's always small enough. If you want to watch a movie, you flip that keyboard behind
Yeah.
and just go to the movie mode, and it's just like it's great for that. It's a little bit tricky, of course, actually, when you want to type because you have to be kind of at a right angle.
Hmm.
But the size is kind of perfect for that, or you can, of course, use it in your lap. And then, of course, the laptop 13.5 inches is even better. But yeah, the 15, that's too big for a lot of
Yeah.
for planes.
Even the Surface Book 2 13-inch was kind of
Oh
pushing
yeah.
it. Like I was feeling quite T-Rex hands and on the seat and stuff. But yeah, no. So yeah, I'll be bringing the Surface
Well, you got to
Go.
fly first class.
Yeah, exactly. There's the problem solved. Business class, first class. There you go. You can use your 15-inch wherever you want. But yeah, no. Otherwise, I'm actually really loving the 15-inch. I've not really had any battery issues. At least I haven't noticed anything really. It gets you. I don't feel like I could run it out in one go. Put it that way. The things I'm doing on, I'm writing articles, I'm browsing the web. I'm not doing anything super heavy on it. So the battery life's been fine. The instant on is fantastic. I actually think that's the best part of the whole thing. Is just opening the lid and it always being on, and stuff. I like the metal chassis. I didn't get the Alcantara one, obviously. And it just feels nice. The keyboard on it. Oh, I love the keyboard. The keyboard is fantastic on it as well. The touchpad, as Dan mentioned last week, fantastic touchpad. Got a very nice sort of soft click to it. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Only two major software bugs, and they're not major, actually. I should say minor software bugs I've noticed and have been reported on. One, Intel AX201 has a small, interesting issue going on with for some users, which is when you close that lid and it resumes at a sleep, it seems like some of the antennas aren't coming on to full power. As a result, if you were getting 200 megabytes down, you're now going to get like 80 or 100. And it's only fixed sometimes if you turn off and on Wi-Fi, or for some people restarting it. Now, if you have a fast enough internet connection, you actually don't notice this.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
haven't
really didn't
noticed it.
notice it.
Yeah.
But if you're on a questionable internet connection, this could be an issue. Now, this is obviously a software driver thing. Do not install Intel's drivers, by the way. Service devices are finicky in this way. The drivers come through Windows Update, and those are the only ones you should be using. So don't go install the Intel driver thinking it'll fix this. Just, do the workarounds for now. We actually posted an article up on Windows Central with an actual workaround that you may want to undo when the driver fix comes out. But wait for Microsoft to push a driver update. Hopefully our article will get their attention for that. The other problem I noticed, again, small quirk, night mode. I schedule it. Either it doesn't come on when it's scheduled, and if I turn it on manually, it doesn't turn off in the next morning. So the next morning, like, I'll turn on my laptop and the screen will be the yellow as a night mode. But then when you look at the night mode icon, it'll actually say it's off. And so then you have to turn it on, and then the screen like actually goes white, and then you have to toggle it again, and then it goes back to and it
That's
fixes.
interesting. Are you running an insider build on that, or is that
No,
shipping?
no,
Oh,
yeah.
strange. I don't think I've seen that bug.
Yeah, these are just straight up production,
Hmm.
no insider rings.
Interesting.
And
There is a third bug that people seem to be running into regarding software, and that's the displays will just go off or like really really dim to the point where you can't see it and you can't change it until
that's got to be the auto display brightness.
I think so. Yeah, because there's been weird like it's if you haven't seen a Pro 7 or Laptop 3 in
Yeah,
person,
that's
it has really strong maybe is the wrong word, but really sort of like in your face auto brightness in the sense that you can sort
it
of see
jumps.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, it jumps like at 5% increments
Yeah.
instead of like much smoother.
and
Uh,
it's rough.
to their credit, they ship with that off.
Oh,
Like,
they do.
yeah, auto display brightness on Surface devices is not enabled by default.
Well, it should
So
be.
I think they may know about that. Yeah, it does not perform well. So yeah, if you enable that, you get this really staggered light change effect.
Yeah.
There's also, of course, the existing adaptive contrast thing that's part of Intel but a lot of people hate it. What that means is like if you're on a dark screen in a low light room and you switch to a white screen like a browser, the contrast will
Yeah,
change.
it'll get a
So
bit
it's not,
warmer or a bit
yeah.
cooler. Yeah.
So it's like it just sort of the brightness, but it has to do with the contrast comparison. So it's
Hmm.
not as jarring. It's actually it helps people, but if you are editing photos or some people don't like the screen because you can see it, you can kind of see it changing. So
Yeah.
some people don't like that. We did post an easy fix. This used to be like a registry thing you had to go do, and it was really kind of annoying. There is now you can download Intel's control panel. They call it Intel Command Center, I believe, is now in the store. It's a UWP app. They rewrote it. This replaces the old 32-bit version you would have to download from Intel. A lot of PCs ship with it native. But in there, you can turn off the display power setting, and it kind of fixes this. But it actually tells you it does help with power savings when it's enabled because it doesn't keep the screen ramped up for whites as bright as it would for darker colors. So we have that on the site if that really bothers you, but it's a simple toggle. You just click it and that's it. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
Right.
But yeah, so that's that. Oh, I'm just going to mention it now. We're not getting the Pro X for review.
Yeah, this sucks. Microsoft, this sucks.
Yep.
If you're
So I'm
listening.
not under embargo to say that. I didn't say I'm not. I didn't sign anything saying I'm not getting it, but they're not sending us the Pro X. So sorry about that, folks. Would have loved to have reviewed it. I have no plans to go buy it because we already bought the Surface Laptop 3, 13-inch, which they also didn't send. But I use that device, so it helps. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe eventually they'll send us the Pro X. They said something about low numbers. I don't, but I could go to the store and pick one up on Tuesday, so I don't know what that means. But
Maybe they'll have
I
a
have,
discount for igniting teddies.
yeah, yeah. The good news for me is I'm using the brand new Razer 27-inch monitor, which is pretty awesome. It's HDR and all this stuff, and I have three ThinkPad X1s to review, including the Yoga, the Carbon, and the Extreme Gen 2, which is pretty awesome. I also have a couple of HP things, including this desktop one I'm using and the NV13, which is my favorite budget PC. I also have a Swift 7 I still need to review that they're really asking to have back, and I'll have to get it back to them sometime. So I'm actually up to my neck in laptops right now, so I'm going to pay attention to those because those actually sell more than what the Pro X is going to sell. But yeah, sorry, it's not my fault though. Microsoft is just doing Microsoft things. I guess if I was a pretty blonde, I'd have better opportunity. I
Okay.
had a successful YouTube channel, you know,
Yeah.
um, but not very good looking. So, I don't get the eyes or attention. I'm sorry. But yeah, so that's that. All right. Oh, yeah. Let's go now to. So that was a little side thing about the Surface stuff, but go check our coverage of that on Windows Central. Jedi. No, not the cool Star Wars one, which comes out next month, which I'm actually very excited about. This
Yes.
is a big contract that Microsoft won. So we'll just talk about this briefly. I know it's kind of not that exciting, but it's a big deal for Microsoft. This is JEDI, which stands for Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure. It's a $10 billion 10-year contract that Microsoft landed and managed to beat out Amazon for. Now, there is some contention here because Trump hates Amazon because of Jeff Bezos. So, you can maybe make the conspiracy theory that, that's what drove this. But I think there's a really good argument to say that Microsoft's actually pretty good at what this contract was proposing that they're going to do. It's not like, Trump's cousin got, or family member got the contract. What this is, in plain English, is simple. The government has computer systems. These computer systems vary from department to department through the defense infrastructure, the network, and everything like that. Some of them are old, some are legacy. A lot of them are not in the cloud. They're all disparate, and it makes communication between departments hard because of formatting, because of issues with communication. If you've worked in an office, you've probably have dealt with this before. All Microsoft is doing and all the government is asking them to do is basically be their IT guy. It's like if you started a business and you got 30 people in an office, you're like, we need an IT department to manage our network, set it up, pick the laptops for us, connect them to the cloud, and put our files here in this server and have secure and maybe throw in some of that AI and machine learning magic everybody's talking about. And that's what Microsoft's doing. So this is going to be Azure. It's going to be various computer systems, but it's all going to be on a similar network that's, all the networks can talk to each other. All the departments can talk to each other. It'll be faster, real time for sharing data, video, collaboration, all the stuff that Microsoft is actually known to do, right? So like, that's why I find like, maybe there was some, maybe there's a reason why Amazon didn't get it, but it's not like this is kind of Microsoft's bread and butter. I feel like this is like everything they've sort of talked about doing for the last couple of years. And to land this contract, $10 billion, 10 years, anyone knows government contracts. Once you kind of get in there, even after 10 years, everybody's already predicting this will be more than $10 billion. They got to constantly service the network, and it expands to, if it's successful, other departments will expand with it. So very good for Microsoft. Not saying there isn't controversy, though. There are Microsoft employees within the company who are not happy with, their technology being used for the government, especially the Defense Department, which is, the euphemism for our War Department, right? It's not so much, it's defense in a technical sense, but it's also the same group that wages wars across the world. And, some people working in these companies aren't comfortable with that, just like they're uncomfortable with HoloLens 2 being adopted by the military to be used out in the field. I don't want to weigh in on that, but that controversy does exist out there. So the fact is, though, Nadella said, we heard you, our employees. We're aware of your concerns, but it's basically $10 billion and we're going to do it. And, if they didn't do it, Amazon would have done it. So, I guess pick your evil there, I suppose. But big deal for Microsoft. It's going to definitely weigh in on their bottom line. I think it's also it's good for their business, right? Having the U.S. government as a major contractor is going to be really good for them. But this is mostly happening under the Azure group. So that's their win, which actually now is the Windows group too. So everybody's kind of going under Azure. But yeah, there you go. That's Jedi. So
such a cool name for such a lame topic.
Well, I mean, they've done this before. Back in the 80s, Reagan had the Star Wars program, which sounds
really?
awesome.
Yeah.
It actually was kind of a cool idea. They were going to put satellites in space with lasers on them. So kind of Star Wars. Actually, it was going to shoot out. They're supposed to shoot out missiles from Russia.
That sounds awesome.
But yeah, the technology was never that sounds cool, but it was never actually plausible.
Someone should start a petition to make a real Death Star to protect our planet.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
No, it's definitely
like if you look at a lot of top secret government military stuff, they have kind of cool sounding names. I think there's Black Star was one of them. That's pretty badass sounding. Yeah. So that's Jedi. All right, let's. What else is next here? Oh, yeah. Tell me about xCloud console streaming. So we already had Project xCloud.
Yes.
It kind of launched in an early beta a couple weeks ago. And what happened this week?
So this week, Microsoft started rolling out the next part of its xCloud sort of thing that it's working on. So there's two parts to xCloud. The first of which is general game streaming. So that's you can be out and about. You can load up the xCloud app and you can choose any game from, I guess, Game Pass when it's actually official. But right now it's a list of 4 games, first-party titles. And you can just play it, even if you don't own an Xbox. Because what it does is it sort of connects you to Microsoft's Azure servers and gives you a virtual Xbox to play it on. So you don't have to... Technically, you don't have to own a physical console to use that part of xCloud. This week, Microsoft rolled out the second part of xCloud, which is based on streaming games from your own console at home. So this isn't depending on your Wi-Fi connection anymore. So Microsoft has had game streaming for a while on your own console if you're on the same network. Windows 10 has had the support for it and stuff. You could, on the Xbox app, you could connect your console if you're on the same network and play games on your PC that are powered by your Xbox. But now this works outside of your network as well, through the xCloud app. So I can be, I could be in another country, which actually I will be doing. I'm going to be testing this in Orlando. I will be able to connect to my Xbox at home and play all of my games that are installed on my Xbox on my phone without having to be on the same network. And that's a huge deal. So that means any game basically now can be streamed and operates on your phone, apart from backwards compatibility games for some reason. I'm assuming there's licensing reasons around that, but Xbox One games, they all work just fine. I was sort of testing it briefly yesterday, playing Modern Warfare 2 and stuff. Sorry, Modern Warfare, the new one. And it works really well. It's actually really cool. And what I noticed whilst testing it is that when you connect to your console while it's off, it will remain off externally. So, the power button doesn't come on, it doesn't make a noise. You hear the fan spin up because it technically is on, but externally it's still off. It doesn't power up your TV, and it doesn't put any image to the TV either. So it's technically, for all intents and purposes, it's off externally. Nobody who is in your house is going to be like affected by it coming on and booting up your TV and audio devices. It will just sort of stream to your phone stealthily, and it works really, really well. It's almost flawless. I would. If they had said this was the final version, I would be totally satisfied with this feature. But no, it's still in beta, so they are going to improve it and stuff before it launches. We still don't know when it's launching. They haven't given us a date. But I believe the preview is rolling out to more people now. So if you haven't got an invite yet, check your email, because I think most people should have it at this point. If you don't, then that's unfortunate. But yeah, no, it's really, really, really good. And I can't wait to be in all, because I'm bringing an Xbox controller just for this. I'm going to bring an Xbox controller to Orlando, and I'm going to be like just playing games on my phone, because you can do that now. It's such it opens up a whole new world of possibilities for me being a casual gamer, in the sense, because you're not going to be using this to in esports, or if you're a professional gamer who needs to have you're not going to be using this. But as a casual gamer who plays games for their story, or just for fun, this is great. I'm going to have so much time now to play all the different games that I generally just don't have time to play. I'm going to be like at a conference, Sash is going to be on stage, and I'm going to be playing Halo, because that's the thing you can do now. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Which phone are you using for this, for testing?
So I was using the Note 10, but I updated it to the One UI 2 beta, and the beta sucks. It's like really buggy and stuff. So I stopped using. I've gone back to the Pixel 3 XL, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's working fine on both. I think it just depends on you. If you've got good internet, and it will do a test on the Xbox when you set it up, it'll be like, right, we're just going to test now to make sure your network's good enough. And mine was, luckily. But if you haven't, I think it requires 5 gigahertz connection for one. The 2.4 gigahertz connections, although it will operate, it doesn't do it very, very well. And they even recommend it will say, by the way, you're going to have a less than optimal experience on the 2.4 gig network. You want to use it on a 5 gigahertz network if you can.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have P30 Pro. I'll probably bring that with me down to Ignite. I have the little controller thing. I'm more excited about it coming to Windows 10 for me.
Right, yeah, because then any PC is now a gaming PC, right? Even if it doesn't have any, graphics, like the Surface laptop will be able to play any game.
Or if we had a Surface Pro X.
Or a Surface Pro X.
I'm not bitter. But yeah, it's kind of cool. I mean, you'd be able to use like thin client type devices, even those with ARM, to sort of, to play video games on, just connect up to the controller. And to me, that's really enticing because, yeah, I mean, but then again, Razer just announced this week, it's, what is it, Wildcat, Jungle Cat, Forest Cat, I forgot what they call it. They always have wacky names. But it's a telescoping phone joystick controller thing, right? So there's a ton of these on Amazon from third parties and stuff, but it stretches out. You drop the phone in, and it's got like what looks like 2 Switch controllers on the sides, and it actually looks exactly like a Nintendo Switch with the Razer phone on there. And the Razer phone is kind of cool for this because you get the 120 hertz refresh display. And it's still the only phone, as far as I know, that does that. Maybe the Asus Rogue does. I haven't followed it. I think
there are a couple gaming phones that do it now. Yeah.
Yeah. So. That's definitely. In fact, I want to dig up my old Razer phone because I still have that one. I didn't get the Razer Phone 2, but I will point out, if you're really interested in this, like the Razer Phone 2, which, I mean, it's not the best phone. It's a Snapdragon 845. The camera is okay, but you can get it for $399 these days, which is actually pretty cheap for that. And again, and it's a great. You throw this like controller thing on there, an XCloud, like. This is a pretty cool, Nintendo Switch killer, right? It's actually going to be better performing than a Switch, and actually kind of more useful too. A little more expensive as well, but it's definitely an interesting option out there for those of you who are following this. But yeah, it's all kind of neat stuff, I suppose.
Yeah, it is. I think the xCloud idea, I think, is so cool. Like Google's doing it with Stadia, and that's launching November 18th, I think. I don't know how successful Stadia is going to be because it doesn't have the alternative of console streaming. There isn't already an established market out there of games or hardware that you can just tap into whenever you want. That's at your house. Stadia relies on Google building an upper ecosystem for the platform because, like I said, there's no ecosystem there for it yet. So it's talking to developers, and some developers are jumping on board, and some aren't. So not all games are going to be there. Whereas with the xCloud stuff, although not every game will be on the xCloud side of things in regards to just being able to tap on it and play the game without owning a console. If you do own a console, any game that's Xbox One will work on your phone. You'll be able to stream any Xbox One game, Hitman or GTA or the new Call of Duty or the latest Halo. Peggle, yeah, Minecraft, anything. Like you can just launch it because what it does is it streams your Xbox One. So your Xbox One's dashboard shows up, then you go to the games library and stuff, then you launch your game. And yeah, I think that's a super cool option to have when the game you want to play isn't on the dedicated streaming side from Microsoft.
Sounds good. Finally, maybe we'll see if we think of any other stories, but at least the Fitbit news happened this morning. Yay. So the rumor was, so Fitbit's been struggling a bit for a while, which is kind of weird. They sold or shipped estimate, Canalys?
I don't know.
Canalys? I don't know how to pronounce them. They're estimated to Fitbit's estimated to have shipped about 2 million Fitbits last quarter. Apple shipped around 3 million Apple Watches, which when you think about the price of those, and that's pretty impressive. But Fitbit was there and like number 2. And then you look at Fossil. So Fossil I only bring up because they make obviously Android Wear devices. I have the Fossil 5, the Gen 5. It's actually a pretty nice hardware, but the OS, we'll talk about that in a second. But they only shipped 300,000 of those. So that gives you sort of, and the only reason that's important is because Fossil's the most successful of Wear OS devices. So the most successful one is Fossil. That everybody knows, and is the one people recommend. Shipped 300,000. Fitbit was 2 million, and the Apple Watch was 3 million. So there's the problem, right, for Google. I would also say Google's problem in this space was they were trying to replicate the Android model, which on the face of it makes sense, right? I mean, Android is the most prominent operating system now in the world for mobile devices. And it got there through, here's the operating system, here are OEMs, you can take it, put it on your hardware, and you can kind of do whatever you want with it. So they've been kind of pursuing the same path, but for some reason, Wear OS is just it feels like Google's kind of been ignoring it. They even mention it at their October event here, and there's also the fact that there is no Google hardware made for wearables. Now, it came out a few months ago, I think, that in 2016, Google actually did have a prototype Google Wear device. It was going to be a Pixel that was going to come out, but it was so bad they gave up on it. That was 2016. And Wear OS is just weird because it feels like it's halfway there. Like when you see it, you're like, oh, this is like an Apple Watch competitor. I see my internet's glitching over here. Oh.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you sound fine, so that's what matters.
Okay. I'm on a new router. I don't know what's up. Very disappointed. But so it's, so I felt like they were making progress, but they haven't released really feature updates. It just feels like it's a side project of theirs. And so they're kind of in desperate straits right now. And then Fitbit is synonymous with, fitness trackers. In fact, their name is sort of like someone referred to as like the Kleenex effect. Typically, they're called facial tissues or just tissues, but everybody calls them Kleenex, the brand name. Just like years ago, you used to Xerox something when you meant to photocopy something. And so sometimes when a brand becomes so synonymous associated with a product, it becomes the brand itself, becomes the name of it. Fitbit has kind of done that. That said, Fitbit has been struggling because they work on very thin margins because their devices aren't tremendously expensive. And the competition, especially against Apple, has been pretty fierce. You also have Garmin and other ones out there. I'll say, though, Garmin is still pretty low. Garmin is only, I think, 500,000 devices they shipped. So it's not like Garmin is doing a ton. Samsung actually shipped 800,000. So Samsung's actually beating Garmin as well. But and you have Samsung as that competition. So they've been kind of struggling in this space, even though they've been around for over a decade. And so there was, talk that, they were interested in selling, and here comes Google, and Google did buy them. Now, what's the plan? So Google says they're basically going to fold Fitbit into their folio. They do have plans to release apparently a Google wearable device. They're going to actually try to do that now. Your data from Fitbit is now Google's data. Now, to Google's credit, they said, we're not going to use your data to target ads, so that's nice. But you're still going to be part of their Google system, just like Nest was, right? Nest, for a while, operated independently within Google, and that's all changed now, right? To use Nest, you have to do a Google account or you don't get updates.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to this. I love Fitbit. I say I love Fitbit. I love that Fitbit offers a wearable that lasts a week. Like, I just don't want to charge it.
Sure.
And the Fitbit is the one that gets you closest to that. It used to be TicWatch, but then Fitbit bought TicWatch.
And Pebble.
And yeah. Pebble, they swallowed them up, and now Google swallowed Fitbit up. I cannot believe it.
Oh, and what was the other one that they bought too?
I don't know the other one.
Yeah, there was one more.
They swallowed up all the good smartwatch makers, and now Google owns all of them.
Yeah, I know, and that's what it comes down to. And so, yeah, I mean, that's real unfortunate. And it's like, so my issue here though is like, but I get it, right? Because I just told you, Fitbit had 2 million devices versus the 300,000 Fossil. So yeah. Now all of a sudden, in theory, they're kind of like number 2 against Apple.
Right. So before you jump into that, I'm just curious. So what are they going to do here? Are they going to scrap Android Wear and use Fitbit's firmware, or like Fitbit OS now? Is that going to become Google?
Sounds like they're going to use Wear OS and put Fitbit's data stuff into it.
I hope not. I really hope they don't go that. So the problem with Wear OS, there's 2 problems with Wear OS. One, Wear OS itself is just rubbish. It's just not great. And 2, the silicon inside the watches also isn't amazing. They're quite slow and not very good, not very battery efficient and whatnot. The Fitbit's great because the operating system is so lightweight that it sips on battery life. That's why the Fitbit Versa 2 gets 7 days battery life. Like, I'm taking my Fitbit Versa 2 to Orlando, and I'm there, I think, for 6 days. I'm not bringing the charger because I don't need to. Like, I will get that. It should last me the whole trip, unless obviously if you're exercising and you're actually using it quite a bit, then it's not gonna last 7 days. But if you literally just use it for notifications and checking the time, then it should last you a full 7 days. And putting Wear OS on it, I think it's going to reduce the battery life significantly.
I'm paying attention. I just turned my router, set my computer to high priority on a network. I don't know if it'll improve. Let's see if this technology works. If my stream gets better the next few seconds, maybe. Anyway, I mean, that's why I'm saying. So that's my criticism here. This doesn't move the needle, in my opinion, for Google. First of all, they don't have a good history of buying other hardware companies and then somehow making magic happen with their own stuff, right? They took Nest, ran it for a while, didn't do anything with it. They're like, no new Nest devices. Everybody's kind of complaining. And they had some issue with the guy that was running it. And now Nest has just become like this weird extension for some of their services. And now you need to sign up for a Google account to kind of use it. Then you have Motorola, the big example from 2011. They bought Motorola. And 3 years later, they spun it off to Lenovo, basically keeping the patents and everything else. But the argument back then was they bought Motorola as sort of a vanguard against Samsung, who was getting too sort of aggressive. But they tend to have this, and I posted, there's this site, Google Graveyard, I think it is, that like posts about how all the hardware they've killed over the years and apps and services, and there's a lot, right? I'm not saying that that's going to happen here. They may be able to pull this off, but what is this device going to look like? Wear OS, its issue is as an operating system, it's mediocre at best. The app story on it is not great. I don't like running apps on it. I don't like running apps on any of these, including the Apple Watch, but the Apple Watch does it the best. So Wear OS doesn't do that well. Wear OS definitely doesn't do fitness well. Maybe okay, so now they can solve that with Fitbit. Uh, but then you have other external issues. The processors aren't good in the Google Wear devices, and that's Qualcomm, right? But how does this change that? It doesn't. Um, how does this compete against the Apple Watch? It doesn't really, you know. So it's like I don't know what the game plan here. This just sounds like a good idea on paper. Like, yeah, well, you know, Fitbit's got 2 million sold 2 million devices, and Google hasn't, and has this great community. We'll just mix the two, and bam, we're there, you know. And I just have like no faith in Google being able to pull this off. I just because they had 5 years with Wear OS,
Mm.
5 years, and you know what's happened? You had companies like Samsung, Huawei, Asus all go, yeah, we're not doing these anymore. We're pulling out. We're going to just do our own wearables because the secret to wearables is not the same secret that was a success for smartphones. The secret to wearables is you control the whole stack, software development to hardware development to the processor. And you make these really personalized, specific functions that are just delightful to use. That's what Apple has proven. That's actually what Fitbit kind of proved, uh, proved as well. That when you do everything in one thing, it's actually pretty good. Even if Fitbit doesn't, operate great as a smartwatch, it did its fitness stuff very well. So it had focus. Um, Google doesn't have focus on this because I don't think they know what they want to be. They're like, we don't do fitness well. Buy company like there, we do fitness well now, right? That's all it took. You can strap all this stuff to you, but unless the integration is there, you know, I just don't have faith that it's going to work out. Now, to get to Microsoft, I know a lot of people are like, well, Microsoft should have bought them. I mean, I've come out against that idea too. Obviously, Microsoft doesn't even do wearables, so at least not now, or they do headphones, but I made the argument why they should do a wearable for Surface Duo. It would have been interesting if they did buy Fitbit, because then you would have to go like, oh, so Microsoft's going to do a wearable now,
Yeah.
Um, but that didn't happen. And Microsoft doesn't have a great history either, and unless they had a very specific game plan that they wanted to do with Fitbit,
Yeah,
or just
there's
keep
a
Fitbit.
you can like it would only make sense if they had a productivity focus spin that they were planning
Yeah,
for Fitbit, which is a stretch. I mean, you could kind of do it like, oh, you got a high heart rate, don't go into work today or something like that. But but oh, by the way, someone's correcting me in the chat here. So I mentioned Fitbit swallowed up TicWatch. That's not true. They swallowed up Vector. That's what I meant to say.
right. It was factory. Yeah.
Vector were the ones who did what I call dumb smartwatches, in the sense that they were basically just normal watches that could sync notifications and weather data and stuff, and they lasted a full month on a single charge. That was my favorite thing.
Yeah, we did. I did a review of those because they worked with Windows Phone too,
Yeah, I
and
reviewed one
people
as well. Yeah.
really enjoyed them.
Hmm.
And you can listen, and the irony is not lost on me. I put this in the article I wrote today. Fitbit bought Pebble, Fitbit bought Vector, and if you were a fan of those platforms,
Yeah, they're
you're
gone
not
now.
happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not like. I mean, I would argue Fitbit made some good use of the developer community for Pebbles. If you look at the watch faces available for the Versa in that community, those are all ex-Pebble people, and they've done an outstanding job. But yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of those, you're like, yeah, well, how's it feel, Um, and then there's the issue with data, right? I mean, some of us just don't trust Google that much with our data, let alone health data. That's a personal decision, but I think it's a legit discussion. And then people have questions over it. I think that's totally makes sense. And it's just sad, Fitbit was, 12 years. I had everything from the Fitbit 1 up through every device they've owned. They've been a really kind of interesting small company that's managed to go up against these bigger ones for a while. And now they're swallowed up by Google, and I think swallowed up is the right term. They're going to be swallowed up. And I just don't have any faith that Google's going to be able to pull off. I think wearables in this space, you're either super focused on fitness, or there needs to be a paradigm shift somewhere. Like, because even the Apple Watch, which I think is it's an amazing feat of engineering, but it's still just not quite there. It doesn't know what it wants to be exactly.
Yeah.
So someone needs to really rethink about what these things are supposed to be like.
I'm just wondering how Google is going to go forward with Fitbit now that it owns it. Like, will they release new Fitbits, or will they be Google Versus now? Are they going to be Google Fitbit Versus? Are they going to rebrand the entire
Yeah.
thing, or are they going to just start their own hardware line using some of the bits of Fitbit and then eventually kill
I
off the Fitbit as it currently is?
Probably a bit of both. Like I feel like it's sort of like when Microsoft bought Nokia, and they're like, "All right, we own you guys. Open your portfolio, show us what you've been working on." And they'll probably go through some of those products and be like, "Oh, that's kind of cool. All right, well, let's continue that one, but
Yeah.
we're gonna make some changes." And then they're gonna look at other ones and be like, "No, we're canceling those." And you will see for a little while this sort of like hybrid. I think you will still see like a couple new Fitbits come out, but
Hmm.
eventually, yeah, you'll start to see the Fitbit probably brand fade and pull out and stuff like that, and they'll de-emphasize it and just
That's
be
that
yeah.
sucks. I'm on the market for a new wearable. I might get
Yeah,
a
so it's a good
Galaxy wearable next.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I don't have an immediate answer to this. I will say Withings is interesting. I have
Oh,
a
Nokia.
Withings
Oh, they
device.
were
I have
Nokia. Withings
Yeah.
did
So
go to Nokia,
Withings
right?
sold to Nokia, and then Withings was like, "Can we have it back?" And Nokia's like, "You know what? We're not doing great with this either. Yeah, you can have it back," and
That's
literally
so
sold it
nice of
back to
them.
them.
Oh, that's
Um,
cute. Oh yeah, because the
yeah,
Withings. So the Withings. So I know a little bit about the Withings. They're the ones that are basically dumb watches as well, right? Except they do the health tracking in
yeah. I have the
addition.
Withings Sport HR, and it's a beautiful looking watch, but the glass I use on it is crap. Like I scratched it within
Oh,
like a
it's not Sapphire.
days.
Yeah,
No, it's very soft. I was
yeah.
not happy about that. But yeah, it looks like a straight up dress watch. It looks really, really nice. And they tend to have like some of them have a little digital LCD display in them. Usually like where the moon would be on a normal watch. And there you can cycle through and it can show you things like your heart rate, your
Mm.
steps, and some. And then the app itself, the app is a little bit more rich. The app gives you a little bit more information. It worked all right. I wasn't tremendously blown away by it compared to Fitbit, but some interesting stuff. They have a new one about to come out that does AFib heart detection, a little more like the Apple Watch. It still looks super fancy though, like a straight up. I think they're an interesting option. They're more true, right? Personalized.
Yeah.
Um,
My only problem with the
but
Withings one is that since it doesn't have a display or not like a big display, that it doesn't do notifications, and that's like the 50% of why I want a smartwatch. It's notifications and um, sort of health tracking, really.
someone's pointing out about the Apple Watch and the battery life. It's better than you would think. I'm using the Series 5,
It's
always
about
on
4 days,
display.
right?
The Apple Watch? No, it's
Yeah.
not 4 days.
Is it less than?
No. Oh God, yeah.
Oh, it's
But it's
terrible
not
then.
that. No, Apple Watch when it first came out was like a day.
That was also terrible. It's terrible up until it's more than 3 days. Then it's
Oh,
acceptable
it's
in
not
my
that.
head.
Yeah. But I'm on. I didn't. I took it off the charger yesterday at 9 a.m. and I haven't charged it since. I'm at 35% right now, and that's
Oh,
with the always on
that's not
display.
amazing.
No, but it's better than what it has
Used to
been
be,
for earlier
yeah, yeah.
versions. It's better than you would think it would be, especially considering the performance. This is the 44 millimeter one too.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, they need to do sleep tracking, all that kind of stuff. The thing about the Withings, they go for like a month. It's actually more like 2 or 3 weeks, not really a month, but it goes a long time without charging. So Withings is kind of interesting. I know a lot of people like Garmin. I'm not a fan of Garmin. I'm just not. I think their devices
They're
look terrible.
ugly, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the displays on them. I don't like the. I think the app is too busy. It's too much. It's not fun. And I get it if you're a hardcore runner. If you're like, I need to go run 3 miles today. Like, those people love Garmin. I hit the gym, right? I lift weights and stuff like that. I don't really care about it, and it just never really spoke to me. If it had really compelling hardware, maybe. I don't know. This space is kind of yeah, and I don't want Samsung. Yeah,
Well,
it
the
sucks.
new Active Watch 2, whatever it's called, actually looks quite nice. It's
Yeah,
I think it might
and
be
they've been
the
having
best
luck with
looking
Tizen.
smartwatch.
Yeah. The thing is, I heard you got to install like 3 or 4 Samsung apps to make it run.
Yeah, yeah. I
You
really
know,
hope not. I hope it's just one app that you got to download.
I know it's not easy. This is where Microsoft, this is what was nice about Fitbit. Fitbit, for all its faults, was kind of the third way. It was very
Yeah.
much the Windows Phone of those markets. It just did its own thing. So, but that's the way of business. And we'll have to see over the next few months and years where it all
You
goes.
know, it just makes me wish it makes me miss my Microsoft Band.
Totally. Yeah.
They were good days. They were some good times with Microsoft Band. I
The
loved those
Microsoft Band
things.
was the Windows Phone of the time of its wearables, right? I mean, it did something different.
Yeah.
And that gives me a little hope, in the sense that Microsoft could do this again if they wanted to. But we've, obviously seen no inclination they're about to jump into that again. I want them to do something for the Surface Duo because I do believe a wearable device on your wrist is almost necessary with that type of form factor, especially when you combine it with the new earbuds. It just seems like it makes sense. Maybe Panos can explain to me someday why I'm wrong about that. Um, but I'd like to see them do something. But Microsoft just shut down Microsoft Health. Everything looks like they're going the opposite direction. And I'm sure at some point they were approached to buy Fitbit and had the opportunity. Like, nah. So I don't have
I've just figured out Microsoft's position on wearables. If Microsoft was to go back into wearables, this is what they could do to be unique in that market. Because you know what Microsoft's like. If it's a Surface product, they would like, oh, this is why we're doing it, because we've got this unique spin to it. It would obviously have to be sort of an enterprisey sort of. There'd have to be an enterprise spin to it, because that's just Microsoft sort of thing now. They could focus on having a wearable smartwatch that's based on security and identification, in the sense that how you work in a big company, you've probably got like an ID card that allows you to scan things to open doors and stuff.
Smart cards.
What if that was just on a wrist, on like a smartwatch of sorts? And also it could have like a fingerprint reader on the screen, in the sense that you sit down at a PC or whatever, or you're on your phone, you set it up, you connect them to the smartwatch and stuff, and when you're at your PC, you just press your smartwatch to unlock it with your fingerprint, and then you go in and do your thing with it. I think Windows 10 even supports something called dynamic lock already, which kind of is that. When a device is nearby another device, it knows it's you and unlocks. They could take that one step further with fingerprint authentication on a watch. You could use it to scan to unlock doors if you work in a corporation of some kind, and just sort of have general sort of security enhancements and stuff like that. That could be a unique angle for Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to their 2015 video, I think it was, with future productivity visions, productivity future visions.
Yeah,
some combo of those three words. They actually, have this wearable. It's a flexible display that goes around your wrist, and you can kind of shake it. It does things. And there's a scene where she walks up to a door and uses it to unlock the door.
Yeah, right.
So they're clearly thinking about that.
That could be Microsoft's unique angle to the wearable market.
Yeah, it would have to be some sort of productivity thing. You go watch that video, you'll see it's about meetings and all this kind of stuff. I think I can't imagine the Surface team is like, wearable computers on your wrist? I mean, crossed our minds.
Yeah.
But did you guys cancel Band 3? Oh yeah, that was kind of like that. Yeah, like I'm sure they probably saw Band 3 and thought there's a lot of obstacles here, and we could probably do it better. So I find it really, really difficult to believe that they don't have some ideas here, some internal prototypes that, may not be ready and all that. It reminds me of, I'm going to, tout this too as we wind down the podcast, but I did post an interview this week with the CEO of Razer. Go check it out, because I find a lot of similarities between how Razer does hardware and how the Surface team does hardware. Now I asked, this is Minling Tan, the CEO of Razer. I was like, how come you guys haven't done a desktop PC yet? It's kind of weird. Like, you guys do gaming. Why not reinvent the gaming PC? And he basically said, we have ideas there. We're working on stuff. He just said flat out, nothing has reached my level of expectation yet. And that's exactly how Panos works, right? Like, they release stuff when it's ready, when it's good enough. And so if they are working on a wearable, I'm sure they're waiting on some things like the processor or the operating system or even the screen technology they would need to make it happen. So, but I find it really hard to believe that they haven't, explored this space, because it seems like what we're doing is we're kind of taking the desktop PC as much as we can, and we're breaking it up into little pieces that we can carry around with ourselves. We have the network central computer goes in your pocket. You have the speaker goes into your ear. You have a display that goes around your wrist. Eventually, you'll have a display that goes on your glasses, right? Like, this idea is like we're spreading out sort of the technology so that you're walking around always connected. A wearable seems so crucial to that vision, and Microsoft has thought about it. They showed it in their 2015 video. So where is that right now? I don't know, but that's the only hope I see in the future for me being happy in this space.
Because they could market it as a device. It's sort of like a Windows Hello type wearable that turns any PC into like a Windows Hello enabled device of some kind. That could be like another sort of selling point for it and stuff.
Listen, they're doing Surface headphones. They just announced Surface earbuds. Those are two markets you could say they don't have to do
Yeah, I'm gonna
something,
say there's not much of a product. They've
right?
definitely tried to force a productivity angle on both of them, but there really
Yeah.
isn't one there.
Yeah. So it's like, so when I bring this up, it seems like, listen, if you're going to give those, if those get greenlit to be released, how can they not do a
I know,
wearable? Which
right?
seems way more, they could do much more there in terms of paradigm shifting, right? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
It's
Let's try
funny,
out
like
this
next
part.
year, Microsoft's going to come on stage and be like, "So we only build products for at the end, like with an enterprise or productivity focus. So today we're announcing Surface Candy Floss." But listen, it's like Microsoft.
Right.
There's no productivity focus in
Now,
Candy Floss.
how this should go down is next October, they hold their event. They announce a couple of new Surface Pro 8. No, it looks like the Pro X.
Yeah,
Um,
which
they
they won't
announced
have
Pro
sent us a
X2
review.
maybe, which I still won't get. They
Yeah.
won't give it to me. Um, and then they turn to the Duo, the Neo, they do that, and they turn to the Duo, and they're like, wait, go back to that video again. And they show,
She's
the
wearing a
woman,
watch.
the Neo is down and extended, and then her phone rings, right? But instead of going for the purse, she looks at her wrist. And then there it is, the Surface Wear,
Yeah.
That's how they do it. I'd still really want to see that happen, uh, but we'll see. And on that positive note, throw out your Fitbits. Wait for
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah.
We'll see though. Other than that, we're gonna wrap up the podcast now. We'll do quick Q&A. I can only stay on for a little while as I gotta do TV spot thing, but we'll stick around for that. If you're joining us post recording, we do record this every Friday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time on Windows, mixer.com/Windows Central. You can also join the video cast and ask us questions. You can also join us on YouTube at /Windows Central 2. Not sure, will we be back Friday for? No, you won't be, right?
No, I'm traveling Friday next week,
Yeah.
so
So probably no podcast next week, although we'll see what we can do. We do have Ignite next week, so pay attention to the site. Have some interviews lined up there, some big announcements. So yeah, we didn't get to really tease this, but there will be stuff you guys are interested in. This isn't all businessy stuff. A lot of the products and services and apps you guys are using that you know of on Android and iOS are getting updates. We saw a tease this week. Something that I teased 11 months ago, this ability for Outlook in the app on your iOS and Android to read back your emails and have Cortana built into Outlook was leaked by Walking Cat. He found a little demo video of it. So that seems to be finally coming. This goes back to our story that Zach and I have been trying to tell for almost 2 years now, which is the goal for Cortana is to weave it through the operating system and make AI less of an agent, a visual thing, and more of a just smart apps. So pay attention to that stuff because it should be super cool. We'll have, of course, a recap on Windows Central during the week, so make sure you do that. Otherwise, follow me on Twitter, Daniel_Rubino, Rubino, and Zach at ZACBOWDEN for all our live coverage at Ignite next week. And we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.
cool. Someone says, but Cortana is dead. Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
right.
how wrong you are.
So I've got to tell Microsoft. They're definitely repositioning it, but
Yeah.
this is
It's 100% accurate to say the original Cortana is dead. Yes, I agree entirely, but it has evolved, just like how UWP has evolved and therefore also isn't dead.
yeah. And this is the right choice. They're not going to ever win against the consumer market with as is, but playing to your strengths as a software and services company, this is going to be the right way to do AI. And that's what we want. You want AI through your operating system. You want AI through your apps. You want AI through your services, and that's how you get Cortana in more places. It'll still be not as good as Alexa in your living room necessarily, but it'll have its role.
Someone's asking, will Microsoft have any plans to bring Outlook Mobile to Windows 10? I assume you're talking about the Android or iOS apps. I mean, it kind of already exists. Windows 10's Mail app is sort of a lightweight Outlook. So, I don't expect them to bring the Android iOS app over to Windows, no. I assume they will just continue building out the UWP app. Do you have any news on Project X for Windows 10 PCs or how it will work? I don't know what Project X is. Oh, it's X
I
Cloud?
think he means Windows 10X. He's combining Windows 10X and Project X Cloud, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe.
Super LD Clark, you will have to emphasize your question.
Yeah. Project You Project X Cloud
There's so many
or
X's.
Windows 10?
I can't like Windows 10X. You got Service Pro X. You got X Cloud. I don't know what Project X is.
Someone's asking about sleep tracking the Fitbit, which is phenomenal in my opinion, at least the best out there. Do I have any Apple Watch sleep tracking apps that I recommend? Nope. um, I yeah, I haven't tried any of the new ones. The last time I tried it was a year ago, and it was terrible. I do not feel like sleep tracking is something a developer on his own could just write an app and make something compelling. They're just using these open source algorithms. It's not what Fitbit does, which is actually studying and developing their own proprietary systems. So no, this is still. I love the Apple Watch in terms of a smartwatch extension, but in terms of fitness, Jesus, even my girlfriend, she was like, I give her my old Apple Watch, and she's like, okay, cool. And she went to the gym. She came home. She's like, this is terrible at the gym. I'm like, yeah, because she's a Fitbit user. I'm like, yeah, it's not good for fitness. Um, that's a hole in Apple's game right there, fitness and sleep, in my opinion.
So yeah, Super Clark was asking about Project X Cloud on Windows 10 PCs. We don't know too much. I believe it will be part of the Xbox app on Windows 10, and it will just be sort of how mobile works in that you launch it, you tap on a game you want to launch, and then you sort of boot into it. I don't know if you'll be able to use a mouse and keyboard. I'm guessing it will depend on the game that you're launching, because not all games support mouse and keyboard on Xbox. But yeah, it'll just run not just like it just in the app. You'll be able to full screen it, and it will just look like it's running like normal.
Any word on laptop 3 15-inch 32 gigabytes with AMD? Nope. I, I thought that was available like on day one. Haven't seen it since. That said, if I had to give you a recommendation, get the Intel version, the business edition.
Mm-hmm.
You can get it in 32 gigabytes through there. So I think this may be somewhat market dependent. Some markets have this, some do, and I haven't checked. So I don't think that 32 gig AMD is available. But if you really need 32 gigabytes, just go for the Intel version. I think you'll have a better experience. I don't see any advantage to AMD. It's $100 more if it was, apples to apples, but you're also getting the Windows 10 Pro license with the Intel version, which is actually a $100 upgrade fee. So that's what you're paying for. So go get that. We have a link on the site. But if you type in Surface Laptop 3 15 or Surface Laptop 3 Business Edition, you should be able to order it directly yourself. Or if you're in the United States, Microsoft Store, you should be able to walk in and either pick one up or they can order it for you.
Someone's asking, when will you change your name back to Win Planets? I don't think we were ever called Win Planet.
Nope.
I've never heard of this website before. Someone's asking, what are your thoughts on the new Samsung Galaxy Book lineup? I didn't really catch this. Do you know anything about this, Dan? The new Galaxy Books?
Yeah, they announced two new laptops again. Samsung forgot us for PR on this. Had to have a conversation with them about that, which was funny. It's funny because Samsung makes pretty solid laptops, but they only sell them like in the United States, and they don't really push them hard. Even though the hardware is pretty well designed. I've actually have bought Samsung stuff in the past and reviewed it because I liked it so much. They're okay. I don't think they move the needle forward, but they're nice. They're thin. They bring QLED technology to the displays, so they go very bright. I think over 600 nits of brightness. They're thin. They have pens on them. They look good. That's all I can say about it. I haven't tried it myself. One of them's a convertible, I believe. But I like Samsung's laptops. They're hard to recommend because they're only available in so many markets, and Samsung themselves doesn't really push them very hard. But they do some interesting. If you go back and read some of my reviews and video reviews I've done of Samsung stuff in the past, some of their software they do is actually kind of interesting in terms of security and brightness and outdoor mode and all this. So I think they look kind of nice. Hopefully we'll be able to review them, but Samsung's like Microsoft these days with us.
I have good news. My Xbox Elite Controller 2 just shipped.
Oh.
Bad news is I'm not going to be here.
Yeah, that sucks.
That does suck. Someone's asking, Dan and Zach, what currently excites you in the tech space, inside or outside of Microsoft? SpaceX is it's quite interesting. I'm interested in the stuff they're doing there. Oh, and Tesla, just Elon Musk's projects are super interesting. I think, I think Tesla is really cool. What else is happening? So, like game streaming, like the X-Class stuff, I think is also pretty kind of. I think that's a big deal, a bigger deal than a lot of people are expecting it to be. If it works well, I think it could be a game changer for the gaming industry as a whole.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything specific. I really think I think the Apple Watch is actually one of the most interesting things in tech, even though, if you don't have an iPhone, it sucks, obviously. But in terms of what they've been able to pull off with the hardware and design and the processor and have LTE, and I think it's really remarkable. I don't think it's as functional, but it's doing stuff you've seen some people like it's got fall detection, and there was like a story recently of like some kids who were hiking and they fell off a cliff, and the watch detected the fall and called 911, and they were able to talk to 911 through their watch, and they got rescued. Like that's kind of cool stuff, right? I like this idea of like functional technology that kind of proactively reacts to things you're trying to do. Something with the Tesla cars kind of do this. So I think this is why I kind of want Microsoft to do something there. I think there's a lot of interesting when you get into the sensors, like what Pixel 4, what the Soli sensor, whatever that's called, the radar that's built in. I think it's a neat idea. The way it's implemented, I think it's too early and gimmicky at this point. But you're seeing this sort of heavy investment in displays and sensors and technology, and everybody shrinking down their processors, and like it's kind of cool. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. So.
Someone's asking, when is the new Edge browser coming out? Well, last time we had a conversation with Microsoft about this, they told us that they are hoping to have the new Edge out by the end of this year or early next year. So December, January time.
Are you going to pick up a Pro X on Tuesday to review? No.
Microsoft doesn't deserve it.
We only have so much money. I can't just keep
That's
dropping $1,000 just because.
That's true.
And they said they're going to, I think they're going to eventually send it. I don't have an ETA on that, so I don't know. But no, I don't have plans to go buy it. Yeah, sorry. Plus, we're at Ignite, so.
We're going to be busy.
Yep.
What's happening with the subreddit of Edge? So, the Microsoft Edge subreddit sort of doing like a sort of tease Easter egg hunt type thing. I think you should stay tuned to Ignite because I think all will be revealed next week.
Whatever happened to the Asus ZenBook Pro Duo review? Ooh, that's a mouthful. Yeah, good question. So Asus is terrible with sending out review units like some other companies. So I've never been actually offered to review that. That said, Michael Fisher, aka Mr. Mobile, bought one because he had the same problem. Even he couldn't get one, and he reviewed it, and he was going to let me borrow it. Yeah, he was going to let me borrow it, but I'm too busy with stuff and frankly not that excited about it. I think it's a cool device. I'm not that excited about that laptop though. And I have just other stuff that I think people are actually going to buy to review first. His channel's a little bit different. Like he tends to focus on some of the cutting edge technology, even stuff that people stuff that might not turn into an overnight success, but just interesting, right? Because he covers it's mobile, and I think it's an interesting push for laptops. But at the same time, I have things like the X1 Carbon and the Yoga or some HP laptops, which are going to sell infinitely more because they're way more practical and cheaper. So I need to kind of cover those first. And those companies sent me their laptops and expected me to review them or like me to, versus Asus, who have not sent me anything. So that's that. If I had more of me, I would totally review it. I'm kind of interested in it, but yeah, so that's where that is. Are you guys active on Discord? I'm not. I have a Discord account, but no not as much as I should be.
Me neither.
Will we ever see Microsoft Pay on the Surface Duo? No. Microsoft Pay is DOA.
Well, it's yeah, technically, yeah.
They pulled out the bank support and all that stuff in the United States.
It sort of morphed into Microsoft. It became like a sort of on Windows. Microsoft Pay is still a thing, but it's like it's not. I don't know how it works. Oh, it is still a thing on Windows, but it's for websites. So a website can how you can offer Apple Pay on a website. You can also offer Microsoft Pay, but no one does. So. There's no real point in it. I don't think we'll see Microsoft Pay on the Surface Duo because there's no need for it. Google Pay exists and it's really, really good, and it's accepted in most places. And there's just no reason to compete in that market as well. There's no productivity focus Microsoft can add to using your phone to pay for something.
Yeah. So yeah, probably Google Pay would be it.
It will be because it's a Google certified
Android
device. And for it to have Play Store, it also has to be bundled with things like Google Pay.
Yep. Can we periodically invite developers to the show? Yeah, it's not a bad idea. We're pretty bad at inviting guests on the show. Um, but yeah, that's something we can consider, sure. Any idea what's happened with the AMD Radeon settings app? It's not downloadable from the store as it throws up an error. Don't know though. I haven't tried. I'll take a look. Do you know why the new Edge browser doesn't support web Skype yet? Chrome does. Why is that? I have no idea. I just suppose it's part of the development process.
I'd guess
Yeah.
it's a user agent string thing, and Skype just hasn't updated yet.
Skype team. Nick, we don't recognize the Edge browser. Chromium? What are you talking about? What is this?
That's funny. Do you think MS apps on Android will have more features with Duo? Yes. There will be specific, unique features for some Microsoft apps, at least, on the Duo.
Apple launched Netflix competition today. Can it be watched on Windows 10, Android, etc.?
No.
A web version is coming.
Oh, is it? Oh, is it? Okay, then
Yeah,
yes.
because what I even believe, so, people always remark about this. They're like, oh, it's just a web app or it's just a web view app on Windows. The store sucks. Meanwhile, Apple's Apple TV app apparently on Mac OS is just a web view app. So there you go. Even they were like, why should we bother? Because I think Mac OS development for apps is, they had a 5% decline, I think, on Mac sales over the quarter. iPad did well. iPhone declined again. Watch sales were up and services were up. But yeah, they're feeling the pinch on the laptop side. So, but yeah, eventually you should be able to. I don't know when. Watch it through the web browser. Will there be an app? Probably not. I don't expect it to be.
Someone's saying if you use the Wayback Machine with Windows Central, it redirects you to WinPlanet when you go back far enough. My guess then is that's whoever owns the WindowsCentral.com domain before us, because we haven't always owned Windows Central. We were Windows Phone Central before. Then we were what were we before that?
WM Experts.
WM Experts, yeah. So I assume whoever owns WindowsCentral.com beforehand was WinPlanet, and then once that domain expired, we snapped it up because that's how it works.
Yep. What big announcements do you expect at CES? New laptops?
I think we're going to see a few more foldables announced.
Yes.
I think that's going to be a big focus.
Yeah. I'll know more in December. Not that I can tell you guys. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we know HP and Dell, I believe, have foldable stuff. Microsoft basically said that, they'll be doing Windows 10X stuff, so maybe we'll see stuff then. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a tease of that stuff at that point. Since iPad OS, what do you think of iPad against Surface Pro X or Pro? Tablet mode speaking. I mean, obviously I keep saying this over and over. Everybody's trying to do the same thing. The iPad was just a tablet, and now it's trying to become a computer. And Microsoft has a computer that's trying to become more of like a half tablet kind of thing. They're all kind of going to that center. Apple's added trackpad support and keyboard support and mouse support, and the hardware is powerful, but the OS lacks now. They're trying to fix that. Meanwhile, Microsoft was trying to make Windows 10 a little bit more friendly, but then I would say Windows 10X is the real strategy play there. The Pro X it behaves like an iPad, but it's a PC. It's a Windows PC. In terms of using it as a tablet, I don't have a problem with using these devices as tablets, but I'm in the minority here. A lot of people feel very strongly that these aren't good tablet experiences. I think considering it's Windows 10, how good the touch stuff is on it, I'm actually pretty impressed, but that's me. But I don't really use these as tablets very often anyway, and I don't think many people do.
Do you see MS implementing their Maps and Photos apps on Duo and other Android iOS devices? I don't know, honestly. I think it would make sense for at least the Surface Duo to have first-party apps from Microsoft that sort of tie directly into Windows versions of, like Photos and, like you mentioned, Maps. Excuse me. But, like I said, I have not heard that that's happening. We'll have to wait and see, honestly.
That's it. I'm going to have to jet here.
Yeah, we'll have to say goodbye now. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I don't know what's going to happen on the podcast next week. It probably won't be live, but hopefully we'll still do an episode because there'll be lots of Ignite stuff to talk about. But follow us on Twitter. We'll keep you updated on when and where that's happening and whatnot. But until then, Thank you for watching.
Later, guys.